Good afternoon, everybody. I'm ABC7's Roz Varon here, live on Facebook at the Auto Show, the Chicago Auto Show. And today we are talking high-tech, safety, bells and whistles. And of course, if you're watching on Facebook and you have any questions and you want to chime in, please do, and we will try to answer your questions with our panel here today. Next to me is Amanda Minier from Ford, Network Development Specialist. Then we have Tim Healy, who is the managing editor. He's in the corner there, The Truth About Cars, and Paul Harold, the chief editor, Sons of Speed. So let's get started. And we were just chatting. It seems like when a lot of these safety features started coming out within the past, 5 years, 6, 7 years, everything was just rapid fire pace, and we were seeing all these safety features, and then they were standard instead of extra. Now things have kind of pulled back a little bit, but let's talk about what is new. Who wants to start?
I can get started.
Okay.
So Ford is always looking to innovate with the customer in mind and how they're using their vehicle. One of my new favorite features is the Pro Power Onboard. This is available across the F-Series lineup, and it basically is able to put external power that is exportable for the cabin and then for the bed of the truck to be usable at campsites, tailgates, and work sites. So it's definitely very usable for the customer out and about.
You know, I had a chance to drive the F-150 Lightning,
Yes.
which is an amazing vehicle, not here at the show.
Yes.
But it really is, if you've never, first of all, for an electric vehicle, but then an electric pickup,
Yes.
it's pretty cool.
I
So,
completely agree,
yeah.
yes. And something cool with that is the intelligent backup power, which is a generator that can power your home for up to 3 days in a power outage.
Yeah, when does that ever happen?
Exactly.
So, I mean, not the power outage in your home, which happens too often.
Right.
But yes, thank you. Chime in.
Sure. So a lot of cars today already have camera systems and sensors around because they're being used for the anti-collision systems. So what automakers are doing as well is, instead of just leaving it for that system itself, they are incorporating some of those camera technologies and stuff to kind of read the road and scan the road ahead and adjust the suspension as you drive. So if the camera picks up a pothole before you actually hit it, it can soften up that side of the car. So when you go over it, you don't have that jarring effect of hitting a pothole, saving the tire. So they don't want you to get a blowout, and also just making it more comfortable to go over the potholes. And being in Chicago, we all know what that's like. So
Are we seeing that now? Is that in vehicles now?
I know Genesis has a lot of that technology, which was,
Okay, wait. I have a Genesis.
Yes.
Okay, but mine's a 2019, so
Okay, well,
I don't have that.
a couple of years ago, they came out with it. So now
Yeah.
it actually scans the road and ahead of the car and will adjust the suspension. And the newest car that they came out with, the G90, not only adjusts the suspension, it can also adjust the height. So if it sees something in the road, like a dead animal or something like that, it can actually raise the car up, so that way you don't scratch the underside of your car.
That's amazing technology. So it's good to see things like that, and it's all safety related.
And what's the best part is this stuff is already on the car because they had it for the anti-collision and stuff like that.
Right.
So they're just using that existing technology in a new way.
And adjusting the sensors to create that.
Thanks, Paul. Some of the newest tech I've experienced personally is I don't really go off-roading a lot, but we do get the chance to off-road test some vehicles like the Jeep Wrangler and Ford Bronco. And one thing I've noticed now with a lot of the new off-roaders is they have cameras that can be used on the trail to help you detect an obstacle in front of you, so you don't go over a rock that you didn't see, that sort of thing. And then Ford actually has a technology on the Bronco that can break an inside wheel and help the vehicle turn around. So if you're maneuvering in tight trail while off-roading, you can sort of just kind of slide the car around by having one wheel break and the other one comes around. Now that's obviously the use case for that's pretty limited, but for those folks who are enthusiasts who like to go off-roading on the weekends, that's pretty interesting. And then you can use those cameras even in your daily driving. Let's say you're driving your Jeep and, like Paul said, you see what could be a pothole or a dead animal or a tree branch down the road or whatever. You can use the camera to sort of figure out what that is before you go over or around it.
Consumers play such an important part in how these safety features are developed. Talk about some of the technology that is specifically based on consumers' comments? Anybody?
Can you say the question again, please?
It has to do with listening to the consumers and saying, like, I don't want to hit a pothole, so maybe do something with the suspension so it sees that. Can we talk about, are there even any things that you're aware of right now, any safety features like that, that are directly related to consumers' comments?
Well, I don't really know Amanda could probably answer better from the OEM side, but I've noticed that over the years, the past 3, 4, 5 years, that there's most cars now have suites of what they call advanced driver assistance systems. So that's your forward collision braking sensors or that sort of thing, blind spot monitoring, all that sort of stuff. How much of that comes from consumer feedback and how much of that is from the automaker sort of anticipating the market, I'm not quite sure, but most models in the market today have some sort of suite of features like that.
It's interesting you should say that because, it goes both ways. I was going to say, how much of this is the manufacturers using it as a selling point, but how much is it consumers who are saying, I need these safety features? So I guess it's kind of 50-50.
Yeah, a lot of it's probably the connectivity. People love their phones. It's crazy, right? So, now that pretty much every car has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay standard now. So as soon as you sit down, it's even wireless, where you don't even have to plug into the car. So as soon as you sit down, it connects, and now everyone kind of knows how to use your phone. You might not know exactly how to use the car infotainment center system, but you know your phone. So by connecting through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you basically can control everything intuitively because you're used to doing it on the phone. And if you switch, you switch cars with your spouse or something, you could just
plug it in,
and it's so easy to do. So I think that is very consumer driven because people demanded that. They want the simplicity, they want that in their cars. Also little tech things like having the wireless charger now. So you put your car in the little bay there and it charges. And automakers love it because it's kind of like two benefits where you could charge your phone, and also it's forcing you a little bit more hands-free because you can't use the phone when it's charging there. So it forces you to start doing things, using the toggles on the steering wheel or voice control and things like that.
The more features we see in our vehicles and the more add-ons with the infotainment, when does this become a distraction as opposed to a safety item?
Yes,
It's a tough question.
It is a tough question, and I think Ford is very proud of our Sync 4 system. So this is a feature currently available in vehicles, and I think that it is adding to safety because it is allowing for hands-free texting, calling, changing channels, changing music. So it allows for that customer to be able to experience all of those things while still being safe on the road and driving.
Is this voice activated?
It is, yes, it is. And they also have the wireless connectivity for all your favorite services as well. And it is available on a 15.5-inch screen display.
That's nice.
So that is nice and wide open for you to be able to see in the front of your vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, I love voice activation. I use it for a lot of things in my car. But you still have to be careful because you can be so focused on that and you're not seeing what's right in front of you.
Exactly. The other thing about voice activation is the earlier systems required you to learn a certain set of commands. Sometimes it would not be so intuitive, like radio play. Like you had to learn specific words. Now Lexus and Toyota and some of the other brands, Ford as well, is they're coming out with more just free speech, where you just kind of say what you are thinking and it will analyze what you said and then try to figure out what you want. So you can even say, hey, turn on the radio for me right now, and it will do it.
When is it going to read our mind? It's kind of scary, right? It's interesting, though, because I recall several years ago looking at a vehicle that I really, really liked, and the infotainment center was just layers on layers and layers. That was a deal breaker for me. But I suspect that things are getting a little bit more streamlined, easier to use, and more intuitive. Am I right?
Manufacturers are they're not copying each other, but there's sort of a premise how they're focusing the infotainment center. So when you go from car to car, it's not like a completely different animal. A lot of it is repetitive. So if you know basically how to navigate on one system, you could have a good idea what to do on another system.
That's really smart. I think so. So, what is something that's kind of out there that's going to give us that wow factor?
So I can take that first for Ford. So I wanted to talk about Ford Blue Cruise. So Ford Blue Cruise is currently available, and this is an opportunity for hands-free driving on over 130,000 miles of predetermined U.S. highways. And it is a safety feature in that it is based off of previous technology that was used for adaptive cruise control, and it is always making sure that the driver has their eyes on the road by a camera looking at the driver specifically.
How does that work?
Yeah, so within the vehicle, you're able to, once you're on those predetermined highways, which is called the hands-free Blue Zone, you'll be able to activate the Blue Cruise and then be able to be hands-free driving, and the vehicle will take you down the road.
I don't know if I'm ready for that yet.
It's definitely it's an experience,
Yeah.
but very trusting of the vehicle, and like I said, fully focused on safety to make sure that you as the passenger and fellow people on the road are safe.
How do they designate these specific roads?
Yes, so they look for divided highways that have visible lines. Right now, like I mentioned, there's 130,000 miles of that predetermined, and then from there looking for additional highways that meet those requirements.
Yeah, my vehicle has driver assist. So if it doesn't recognize the lines, it kind of turns off or goes into a sleep mode. But as soon I can see it because I also have the display up on top of my windshield. And even that is something that I'm so used to now. When it first came out, I thought, oh, I could never do this. It's distracting. But like, how many vehicles have that now? The heads-up display on the windows.
A lot.
Most
a
of
lot of
them.
vehicles have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the more upscale, more upmarket vehicles.
How much of a learning curve is it to buy a new car these days?
I guess it would depend on how long it's been since you've bought your last new car.
How long
Yeah.
are people keeping their cars?
What's the average fleet? It's like 11 years, something like that.
If it's been 11 years, I think they need to take a
Oh
class.
yeah. Well, a lot of dealerships, especially luxury dealerships, will have a person whose entire job it is to walk you through the features, to sit and explain everything, and it could take 2-3 hours in some cases. Yeah.
Easily. I mean, it took me an hour, and I still didn't know everything. And that was, like I said, like 4 years ago. So I've just seen so many things change in that amount of time. If those of you watching on Facebook have any questions, I'm telling you, go ahead, type it in. We've got somebody monitoring, and we will answer your questions. So make sure that you do. You've got 5 minutes left. So, wow, where'd the time go? And, all right. Let's see. We talked about driver assist. What about predictions for new technology? Where are we going to be 5 years from now? You take it.
Okay, well, that's a crystal ball kind of thing. So a lot of it is we're seeing the technology today in more the luxury upscale cars, and that trickles down to more of your mid-luxury and entry-level cars. So, for example, for years and years and years, if you wanted to have the doors on a car close by themselves, you were up at the Rolls-Royce pricing, okay? The Genesis G90 has self-closing doors now. A lot of the BMWs and stuff all have self-closing doors. And what's nice is you don't have to hit individual buttons. If you just hit the brake pedal, all 4 doors will close. So all that stuff that was sort of on the super high-end cars are all trickling down. So that's one of the technologies that we're going to be seeing. So if you want to see what your car's going to have in a few years, look at the $200,000 price cars, see what they have, and in a few years, they're going to be on your car as well. One of the nicest things, though, is the over-the-air updates. What's happening with that is as companies fix their software, not really fix, but change or add features or things to the software, because all the cars are connected now and have cellular connections, they can literally send over updates to everybody's car. So if you have brake-by-wire, for example, and it's a little herky-jerky where it's not very smooth, well, the engineers can kind of figure out, well, what's happening, how do we make it smoother, and then you wake up one morning and your brakes are doing much better because that night they sent out the update to everybody's car. It's kind of like on your phone when you get an update on your phone.
Yeah.
And it usually does it at night,
right?
And then the next morning, oh wow, I have a whole new software update. Well, the same thing's happening with cars too. So it's just that same technology, but instead of your phone, it's going right into the car.
Tim, yeah.
So my predictions are fairly straightforward. I think automakers are going to continue to work on autonomous driving, whether it's Blue Cruise or Super Cruise from GM, that sort of thing. Now, to be clear, I don't think we'll be having Jetsons cars that drive themselves anytime soon. I think the technology is not going to be ready for prime time for quite some time. We've seen there are no full self-driving cars in the market today. That's important to say. The best is level 2, which is still requires a lot of human assistance at the end of the day. But I think automakers will continue to work on some sort of autonomous driving. And I think the other thing that we'll see more and more of is infotainment. I almost said Chrysler Uconnect because they're one of the better ones, but yes, I think automakers will continue to work on making infotainment better to use, easier to use, more consumer friendly. And one thing I think we'll start seeing is not just for the driver, but also for the passenger. You'll have multiple phones compare. We've already seen this in some Chrysler products or Stellantis products, where they get their own screen. The passenger does, in the front of the car.
Which manufacturers have that?
Jeep,
Wow.
mostly Jeep. Yeah. So I think we'll start seeing more connectivity, especially for family-friendly vehicles, for kids in the back seat, that sort of thing. I think infotainment's kind of the near term, and I think autonomous driving is a little further out.
You know, I have one other question. Do you remember back when rear view cameras were just coming out and they said, well, in 7 years it's going to be a law. Every new car has to have one. Are we going to be seeing more laws to put in safety features in vehicles, do you think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Like headlights, for example, a lot of people are saying that when a car comes at them, it's too bright. Our government systems that regulate things are a little slow to respond, to say the least. So, for example, like smart headlights or adaptive headlights, they're being used in Europe, like for years. We don't have them yet because of those. The government's just so slow to respond, and people are complaining a lot that as they're driving, the cars are coming in.
People have
them,
complained. They've said that to me. Sure.
And what they did a study, and first of all, about 66% of all cars have at least one headlight a little bit off alignment, so that could be a problem. The other issue is that now that all the SUVs are out, well, their headlights are automatically going to be higher because they're taller cars. So that's right in your vision, especially if you're in a lower car. And the third issue is the fact that we went from sort of halogen lights to LED lights, which are much more, they're brighter, and they are blue light, which it's great when you're behind the lights and you can see it.
Not so
beautiful.
much when it's in your face.
Not so much when it's in your face.
Yeah.
So things like that, we are going to see more laws, and mandates and stuff, but eventually the headlight mandate actually, I think, just changed. So in a couple of years, we will see more smart headlight technology on the cars in America. And also, that's going to extend over to rear view mirrors, where they're going to use more and more cameras now versus the mirror.
Oh.
So they'll have screens inside the car, and you'll just have a little camera kind of sticking out. It's a little bit more aerodynamic, so it helps on fuel. And also, it gives you a wider picture of what's next to you.
All right, we have a question from somebody, and that would be?
All right, so Greg wants to know, car prices are rising. Do you think that they will stabilize? And what are your guys' thoughts with all this technology stuff increasing the cost of cars?
Well, I just saw this morning on CNN that used car prices are already coming back down. As far as new cars go, I think there will be some stabilization, but they probably won't fall too much because automakers want to make money. They will probably do what they can to make as much money as possible. Now, that being said, if people can't afford new cars, the pricing may drop a little.
It'd be interesting to get your take on it, directed from Ford. But yeah, the people are demanding more and more stuff, and the automakers are there to put them in, and it's going to make the cars more expensive. And it's ironic that you got Ford F-150 pickups that are going for $97,000, and they can't keep them on the lots. People are just buying them before they even arrive. So it's a funny game. Where car prices sit, what people want, what people are willing to afford or willing to pay for. It's very unpredictable.
Tim.
One thing I'll add to that is the dealer markups. I think the kind of insane dealer markups. I think that may fall off as we come out of the pandemic and as supply chains stabilize. So you may see MSRPs go up, but those crazy dealer markups, especially on popular models, I think might over the next 3 to 6 months kind of slowly fade away. Hopefully, anyway.
Is negotiating to buy a new car still as stressful as ever, or has that changed any at all? I know that's not what we're talking about, but you're just talking about new cars and the the markups and the, oh my God, I get a headache just thinking about it.
It might soon kind of go back to that, but lately it's been like, here's a price, you want it or not? Because if you don't want it, we only have 6 cars on the lot, and I got 20 people that want them. So that was sort of the last few years. Obviously, that's going to change. It's going to go back to where it was, and like Tim says, that the insane dealer markups will go away, and pretty soon you'll probably be back to rebates, negotiations, financing.
I like rebates.
Yeah, who doesn't?
All right, you guys, this has been a great panel. I think we actually are over time because we had so much to talk about. So thank you so much for joining us. And we will be here at the Auto Show doing Facebook Live every day this week. So hope to see you again soon.